Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about Bruner's spiral curriculum. First of all, let's look at the origins of this approach. The teaching strategy was developed by cognitive theorist Jeremy Bruner in 1960, and in 1959 Jeremy Bruner brought together the world's leading educationalists to think through what meaningful curriculum should look like. The ideas about a curriculum was emerged related to checking teaching and learning experiences through which students could not only learn new things but construct meaningful understanding. These ideas, which become known as constructivists and which Bruner put forward the process of education and underline many contemporary approaches and practices such as thinking skills and assessment for learning, and have the potential support curriculum development and innovation in practical and inspiring ways. Let's discuss what is spiral curriculum. Bruner's spiral curriculum is an approach to education that involves regularly revisiting the same educational topics over the course of a student's education, and each time the content is revisited, the student gains deeper knowledge of the topic. It has the benefit of reinforcing information over time and using prior knowledge to inform future learning. The spiral curriculum is defined as a curriculum that returns to the same topic over time. It's just opposed to methods that involve learning something, then moving on, and perhaps never to engage with it again. When students re-engage with the topic repeatedly, they both consolidate prior knowledge in their memory and build it over time. So, from the next slide, you can find the opinions of the scholars toward this method. To design a curriculum using a spiral approach, we needed to create a unit of work that, first, increase in complexity, and second, start off where the previous unit ended. The spiral approach to curriculum design reminds us that courses are not singular, set in stone units of work, and each course or unit of work that we cover builds upon something previously. This approach forces us to work with our colleagues who were a child teacher in the previous year or in years to come to develop a cohesive approach to teaching. And there are three key features of this approach. The spiral approach to curriculum actually has, as I mentioned, three key features that sum up the approach nicely. The three principles are, first of all, it's cyclical, which means students should return to the same topic several times over again and again throughout their school career. Second one is increasing depth. Each time a student returns to the topic, it should be learned at a deeper level and explore more complexity. And the last one is prior knowledge. A student's prior knowledge should be utilized when a topic is returned to, so that they will build from the foundations rather than starting anew. A group of educators can, for example, use a tool such as Bloom's taxonomy to come up with the learning outcomes at different stages of a course. Educators would develop learning outcomes that have increasing levels of complexity. In the first course, a student might only need to demonstrate an understanding of the topic, which is the lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy. And at the next iteration, student may need to critique or analyze. And in the final iteration, the student may need to create something from the scratch. This approach is extremely common in university degrees, where freshman courses provide foundational knowledge and complexity increases from here. By the end, a student may need to create a capstone project or dissertation that demonstrate the highest form of learning, which means creating something new. There are three stages of representation of Bruner spiral curriculum. The first one is enactive, which is a representation of knowledge through actions. The second one is iconic, which is the visual summarization of the images. The third one is symbolic representation, which is the use of words and use symbols to describe experiences. The inactive stage appears first. This stage involves the encoding and storage of information. There is a direct manipulation of object without any internal representation of the object. And the second one is iconic stage. This stage appears from 1 to 6 years old. This stage involves an internal representation of external object visually in the form of mental image or icon. For example, a child drawing an image of a tree or thinking of an image of a tree would be representative of this stage. And the last one is symbolic stage, which appears from 7 years and up. It's when information is stored in the form of a code or symbol such as language. Each symbol has a fixed relation to something it represents. For example, the word dog is a symbolic representation of a single class of animal. Symbolic, unlike mental images of memorized action, can be classified and organized. In this stage, most information is stored as words, mathematical symbols, and other symbol systems. In language education, we teach in very clear structures. For example, A1 and A2 beginner, B1, B2 intermediate, and C1, C2 advanced groups. A student cannot simply start at B1 because the teacher will return to grammar and vocabulary concept covered in A2 courses with an expectation that the student will be at least familiar with them. The student will often struggle for a short time on the information that is reintroduced, but is expected to be able to pick it up again rather quickly because it was already taught in the past. This reinforces the importance of the revision lesson prior to the beginning of the higher level content. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of this method. First one is developmentally appropriate learning. Oftentimes, we'll challenge the student to be furthest extent of their current abilities. Once we have done as far as we can go, we might have to wait a few months or even years until their mind has developed some more and they are more capable of grappling with a new topic. This advantage relies on the cognitive constructivist premise that brain develop as we age and often in distinct stages. And prior knowledge is central to learning. This approach necessarily employs the notion of prior knowledge. This concept acknowledges that students enter a classroom with a history of learning and knowing what can be employed in the classroom practice. By asserting prior knowledge and using the classroom, we can move toward a student-centered teaching style. Spaced repetition occurs. Each time when we re-engage with a concept again and again, we'll have to recall it from our memory. So like exercising muscles, the more we exercise that little pocket of memory, the stronger it gets and the less likely you will be forget it. Next one is teacher focuses on structuring work to follow logical progression. When developing this type of curriculum, educators and curriculum designers need to pause and reflect on what prior knowledge is. So this explicit reflection of progression of understanding puts continual growth at the center of the student's learning experience. The last one can be integration and collaboration. Educators collaborate to ensure a holistic and coherent learning sequence which is provided over time. However, there can be some disadvantages as well. First one is time consuming for designers because curriculum designers need to collaborate and coordinate for this model to work, and designers educators need to come together several times to agree on what will be taught, when and by whom, so the whole curriculum is cohesive and doesn't miss anything, contain redundancies. Next one is curriculum crowding. If educators have a lot to teach and then reteach, the curriculum can get too crowded. A better alternative may be mastery teaching, where a student doesn't move on until they have mastered the topic. The next one can be irrelevant for short courses because short courses can return to the content in a single lesson, but not long-term reinforcement. because this kind of reinforcement is impossible if a course is only taught over a short period of time. Next one is risk of becoming teacher-centered. When the curriculum is designed in a longitudinal fashion with a long horizon, the teacher makes guesses about students' competency level at a certain times into the future. A flexible curriculum needs to be differentiated to students' learning levels and speeds, which may be unachievable if the curriculum designers designed it too far in advance. The last one is gap filling. Often, a teacher will find that instead of building on prior knowledge, they are reteaching information that was forgotten. And the fact that they just repeat which were taught poorly previously, and the fact that have changed or entails many misconceptions. This is a list of our reference, and thank you for your attention.